So RFK been polling very well ever since he left the DNC.
Polling like 20%, I think, in general polls, which
numbers,
for a third-party candidate is huge.
Nuts. Because
he went up after he had left the DNC. After he started out as independent, he gained in the polls.
Yes, which makes sense to me. But so let's hit this article and let's see, because I have some avenues that I'd like to explore, but I don't want to.
And I sent it to you also if you want to pull it up. It's from the Washington Examiner, which does lean conservative, but I find to still be fine reporting. This is from September 13th. And so this one's a little bit, like I said, I've talked about it a few times, at least 2 or 3 episodes, and just haven't come with articles because it's come up like just in conversation. I've not planned it. So this article is called RFK Jr. Blasts DNC for turning primary rules and schedule against him to thwart his candidacy.
You don't say.
Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is blasting the DNC for not wanting a real primary and turning the rules and schedule against him in favor of President Joe Biden. Kennedy said in a Wednesday op-ed for the Wall Street Journal that the DNC is willing to disenfranchise Democratic voters for choosing their nominee by refusing to host debates and stacking the primary schedule in Biden's favor.
Pause button. Let's talk about this real quick. Generally speaking, whenever there is a president that is coming to an end of his first term, whatever party he belongs to, they do not run a primary. Unless there's some wild candidate out there that goes, no, I'm going to try to primary you out of office because I don't like this. It does not happen very often what RFK Jr. is doing, correct?
Right.
And so does this seem, from the Democratic Party in particular, it seems very undemocratic to not always have a primary going. And then... And to have any kind of pushback against that.
Especially if you have a candidate who's polling well. Like if he's polling at 10%, he should be on the stage because that's whatever the threshold is. If he's passing what the threshold is originally for a primary, then you should have a primary. If someone is polling enough that they would be in a regular year where there isn't an incumbent in the office, where they would qualify for a primary, then you should have one. That's what I think.
So if Biden's current polling is, say, 18% and RFK Jr. is polling at 20%, you got to have a primary at that point.
I even mean if now, irregardless of Joe Biden, if RFK is polling enough, if he's polling,
irregardless is a word.
If regardless of, you're a dick.
Sorry.
Of whether or not RFK,
sorry, didn't mean to throw you off. So regardless of whether or not RFK is polling at
no.
Damn it.
Well, keep your fucking mouth shut and this won't happen.
Just don't want you to sock
regardless of whether or not. I don't give a shit. I don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter if Joe Biden is whatever he's polling at. If RFK is polling enough that he would qualify for a primary debate, then they should hold a primary.
So so it's not the level of, but if you meet
if there's another candidate that
like whenever you had your last primary, whatever your last rules were, if you meet that threshold, that should trigger the primary.
Then you should hold the primary.
So even if you're polling high, and the other guy's polling high too, as long as you meet the primary, like the last primary threshold.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Then you should hold the primary. That's what I think. That
seems pretty commonsensical. I mean, it seems like a very democratic way to do it.
Yes.
100%.
Because if that's happening, then there's enough question with whoever the incumbent is that there should be at least a debate about what's happening.
Yes.
You know?
And it shouldn't just be an inner party debate.
No.
It should just be, hey, I identify as a Republican. I am a registered Democrat. I'm a registered Democrat. I don't like this guy. His poll numbers are way, way down. I'm going to try to go out and get support, and then boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, I'm qualifying for what I would have qualified for last primary. Now let's have a talk.
Yes.
That seems like a more of for by the people type of situation.
Even if you want to use, because they do like 3 debates, whatever usually, and the threshold for polling goes up.
Yeah.
Even if you want to use the 3rd debate threshold, because that's at like whatever, bar. 10, 15, whatever the fuck that is. You want to use the highest bar. They're reaching that. You should be having a primary. You should at least be having fucking debates about what's happening.
And if he's hitting 20%, there's zero excuse for that to happen.
It is totally incumbent upon you to have a primary.
Yeah.
If they're polling at a 5th of what the party is, you need to be having a debate about what's going on.
I mean, and dude, if your party in particular is it's for the protection of our democracy, and you're just saying fuck you.
You're total hypocrites for not doing it.
You have to do that.
Yes.
Oh, but we might lose power. Too fucking bad.
Isn't that how the system works?
Isn't that the way the system's supposed to work?
Yeah.
That's the way you advocated for it to work. So maybe
Right.
you should just do what you say.
So keep on this article real quick. He pointed the DNC's decision to replace New Hampshire with South Carolina as the first in the nation Democratic primary state. Biden won South Carolina in 2020, but he lost New Hampshire and Iowa that year. South Carolina's primary will occur on February 3rd, 2024. New Hampshire will move to second place and share a primary date of February 6th with Nevada. The DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee said New Hampshire needed to overhaul its voting laws to secure the second primary date, as New Hampshire laws state that Republican and Democratic primaries must be held on the same date. Otherwise, the granted state could see the nomination convention decline to recognize its delegates in the voting process, according to the Boston Globe. The committees made similar demands of Iowa, which holds the caucuses before any state's primaries.
That is so fucked up.
Yes.
On so many levels.
Yes. They are actively fucking with the order of the primary states to try and keep RFK out of the primaries.
That's... And I mean, like, and that's to a level that I didn't really comprehend. That is ultra fucking dark, dude.
There is, there is more. Excuse me.
There's more. It's already fucking dark.
New Hampshire has not made any changes to the law as of Wednesday, despite multiple deadline extensions. And Republican Secretary of State David Scanlon reiterated his position that New Hampshire would remain the first in the nation primary on Wednesday. Some of these states, and it might be New Hampshire, have like state laws that say we have to be the first.
It's in their constitution, I believe.
And so the DNC is fucking everybody over by trying to change the order of the way that these things happen.
Yeah. And I'd have to look into it more, but like, I don't know how you as a state to be like, we're going to put it in our state constitution to be like, bitch, we're first. Fuck you, dude. You're New Hampshire. Nobody gives a fuck about you. Go
It's
away.
weird.
That's super weird. But either way.
State law allows Scanlon sole authority to schedule the primary, which he has not yet done. But on Wednesday, he announced that candidates can sign up between October 11th and October 27th. However, Kennedy said the ramifications of entering an unauthorized primary contest could be significant for his campaign. Quote, the DNC has drafted rules that if candidates run in an unsanctioned primary in New Hampshire, the DNC chairman has powers to punish them for not following the official calendar. Regardless of margin of victory, such a candidate would receive 0 delegates.
Dude, another example of how it is not the people that elect our leaders.
Yes.
This is the party putting its fucking boot down and said, no.
So even if
we, the DNC, are in charge of how we get to choose your elected official for you.
Even if he got all of the delegates, even if RFK got all of the delegates in New Hampshire, but they didn't sort, New Hampshire hadn't sorted themselves with the DNC, then RFK would get zero delegates. They would take all of his delegates and just give them to Joe Biden. Because they have to go to someone. They don't just go nowhere. They have to go to someone.
Democracy dies in darkness, baby.
Yes.
Fucking
South Carolina hasn't backed a Democratic candidate since 1976, leading some to argue that the party shouldn't be concentrating so many early primary resources there. Isn't that interesting?
It's very interesting.
Kennedy claimed that he is also facing the hurdle of superdelegates. We've talked about this a million times. Who he called party leaders and elected officials, or PLEOs. The DNC voted in 2018 party leaders and officials. Party leaders and extended officials. Do you see that? The acronym. The DNC voted in 2018 to remove some superdelegates from the first round of voting so as to not infringe on the people's votes. Yes, because no official will likely dare provoke the wrath of the DNC by pledging to me only DNC-approved candidates will get any PLEOs. Their net effect will be to impose the party insiders' will on Democratic voters, Kennedy said. Assuming no PLEO backs me, I would have to win more than 70% of regular delegates to beat Mr. Biden. And we've talked about that, right? So super delegates are, and I'm going to look it up so that we can read exactly what it is, because I've explained it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So it's,
but if I remember contextually while you look it up, if I remember correctly, a super delegate will vote with the party no matter what happens, because the party said so, regardless of how the vote works out. And then regular delegates can go back and forth.
A super delegate is, okay, so I will answer your question first. A delegate who is elected by the party has to pledge their vote the way that the state has voted. However their voters have said, that's where the delegate has to place their vote at. A super delegate, by contrast, a non-elected delegate, which oftentimes these are people who either are current representatives or retired representatives or senators, things like that. Those are super delegates.
They're deep,
right?
They're deep throating the party
insiders.
at that point.
The non-elected delegate to a presidential nominating convention, usually an office holder or influential party leader, right? So I'm pretty sure that Patty Murray is a super delegate. I'm pretty sure that Derek Kilmer is a super delegate. I'm pretty sure.
It would make sense.
Who is not pledged to support any particular candidate. That means they can throw their support any way they want. They don't have to listen to your votes. They can support anyone they want.
Because, and at that point, it's just whatever the party decides their candidate wants to be.
Yes.
Then all the super delegates do that.
And I'm also fairly certain the DNC is the only party that has this.
That's what throws a wrench into my GOP thing with Trump. It's because without super delegates on the GOP, delegates can go both ways, and they're probably going to go where the popular vote goes.
And they make up slightly under 15% of the convention delegates.
15% is not a small number.
No, over 10 is not a small number.
Exactly. The one is too many, to be
double
perfectly
digits
honest.
of the amount of what you can sway there.
Oh, seems very undemocratic.
Yes.
From the Democratic Party. I fucking hate these people so much.
The Democratic candidates of the DNC seems to have forgotten the purpose of the modern primary system, which is to replace backroom crony politics with a transparent democratic process. He said his campaign has contacted the DNC to ask for information about the candidate selection process. Kennedy said his campaign sent 2 letters this week asking to meet the DNC chairman, Jamie Harrison, to discuss voting rights, and claims he has not had any communication with the party since June. We live in a time when a growing number of Americans think that democracy is broken and the political system is rigged, Kennedy said. The DNC's recent actions confirm this outlook. It will be better serve America to run a fair and free primary election.
It'd be nice. It would certainly be nice.
Isn't that interesting?
It's very interesting. Oh, so that ultimately, because when did this come out, you said?
This is in September.
September, yeah. Because he switched to an independent run.
I think early October.
Yeah. And that was like, okay, we can't be doing with this anymore. We have to just go independent at this point, because otherwise, and then bing, bang, boom. As soon as he switches independent, his numbers go. His numbers were strong already as a Democratic candidate. Yeah. And there's the big question here with RFK Jr., right, that I've been hearing through all the pundits lately is, who's he going to pull more votes from? Is he going to pull more votes from the Dems, or is he going to pull more votes from the Repubs?
To the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat.